Good afternoon, Vipaka.
Good afternoon, Ajahn Sumedho.
Thank you for taking some time to do another Q&A. So today is Friday the 19th of May, 2023. I was wondering if we could talk about Vipaka Kamma. What is that Pali term? What is it designed? What does it refer to?
Well, it's when the five khandhas, the body, the feelings, the memories, the emotions, the sensory consciousness, are all karmic conditions. So when we use the word karma, it means something that's created, has a beginning and an end, and so that's what we identify with in the ignorance of Dhamma, of reality, ultimate, absolute reality. We identify with the body and our feelings and our past, our memories of the past, and we form our character, our sense of a separate person, our personalities after we're born. So we make karma with just living, and through that, and then we identify with the karma of the form that we believe is ourself. And so in meditation, we begin to observe the karmic formations as they arise and cease, rather than be caught in trying to make judgments about whether they're silly or foolish or inappropriate or wrong or right. We take the witness position to the Vipaka Kamma, or the resultant karma of the past. So I found in my own experience just learning to take the position of the witness, of the observer, rather than the person observing, then I could actually observe the karma that I've made in my life. And in old age, it's very interesting to be an old monk, and because most of my life has been, the karma made has been in the monastic system, in the Theravada Thai forest tradition, and so that's generally good karma. But so much of my personality was formed, most of it was formed when I was a child and a teenager. So I had a lot of emotional problems as a child, and teenage I found very difficult, just as trying to deal with the forms that I identify with. I felt lonely and tend to be possessive of friends, or have certain fears and anxieties, feelings of inferiority, or tendency to get very to be rather silly about if feeling disappointed with somebody, to not speak to them anymore, to deny them my friendship, and things like that, or Vipaka Kamma. And so this pursues us into old age, or these formations. But in the life of a samana, of a monk, one witnesses it, rather than tries to suppress it or make value judgments about it or just be caught into it, make more kind of karma with these old habits from the past. So, just like our discussion earlier this afternoon about witnessing some of the childish emotions that arise in consciousness, even when you're 89. And the difference now is, rather than even calling them childish, just seeing them, that they arise and cease, like all conditioned phenomena. So every Vipaka Kamma condition, it isn't about getting rid of it or denying it or resisting it, but letting it take you to Nirodha, or the end of suffering. Because they all do. All your emotions, feelings, your righteous values, your sense of loneliness or self-importance, or however it may manifest, it will, if you just witness it, it arises, it manifests out of consciousness and then disappears back into the void of silence. And it's learning to take your stand, to trust this silence behind the Vipaka Kamma, or the resultant karma of your life, to find that's your abiding place, what you can trust, the stability, the love that we all long for as separate people, but we can't find through trying to control or resist the conditions that we experience through the senses, through the body.
What's the difference between, like, when you talk about karma and Vipaka Kamma?
Well, like karma is just like cause and effect, so you're born, you die, like the body's a karmic form. So it is obviously born and will die. And the same applies to, that's an obvious fact that we take for granted, that we're all going to die. But it's not very politically polite to mention that, because death is, to us, the annihilation of ourselves. It's it's a hope, being reborn or reincarnated or going to a heavenly realm, or just we can imagine oblivion, just nothing. When you're dead, that's it. But here and now, like, the timeless reality is always here and now. When you contemplate time, just like looking at your clock, you can look at the clock and it moves. And then your karmic habits arise. Like if you're waiting for something to happen, like we had to attend the recitation this morning in the temple, and anticipating that, waiting, and we tend to get restless waiting. And when it's getting near the time that we imagine, like the rule recitation is generally at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you have coffee at 8 o'clock, and then you've got to get ready, go to the temple, and this is all imagined in the present moment. And then so the body moves, the clock moves, the world moves, what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, what you think and feel and memories, they're all karmic because they're born, they begin and end. So Vipaka Kamma is just referred to as from the past. It's memory or old habits from childhood, from teenage, from youth, and like that. They can pursue you through life. When you're old, you can still react to life like you did when you were 15. And so, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that people shouldn't, but it's a form of suffering when we are just victims of our past actions, past habits that we developed quite innocently. Just growing up in the family that you were born into with your mother, father, and brothers and sisters and relatives and neighbors and friends and school friends and on like that, they all have an effect on you. And when you're a child, you're innocent. You're just kind of an open book, a sponge that just absorbs everything that passes by. So we can't really help the way we are. If we make judgments, we have ideals about what a mature man or a mature woman should be like. And, we can imagine a perfect woman or a perfect man sitting here in this room. We can imagine it. It's all about the superlative, about maturity and wisdom and how one should be beyond one's childish emotions, or one shouldn't, and you feel ashamed or embarrassed about some of your actions to experience because they seem childish or petty, or you just feel you resist life and try to act very mature like your ideal, are ways of making more karma. But not to make karma is to recognize that what karma is. Every karmic condition that you experience, in whatever age you are, that is a condition that has a beginning and ending. So with meditation, Buddhist meditation, is to really become aware of the ending, how things end, how a thought ends in consciousness. Does consciousness end? Well, sensory consciousness ends. Senses are very delicate. So, the vision fades and hearing, when one gets hearing problems or loses one's taste or one's memories or things that we acquire through the senses, through the mind, are karmic, so they have a beginning and end. But what doesn't begin and end is conscious awareness. So conscious awareness is the words we use for being a witness to the karmic formations that we individually experience. Like your karma is not going to be the same as mine. And we're all different. All human beings on the planet. We're not carbon copies of each other. We're not perfect. There's no perfect men or women on the planet. Even in, you try to imagine in ideal cultures where men and women are perfect, but that's merely thinking, imagining something that's at its best. But all karmic formations, they arise and cease. So things reach their best, their point, their pinnacle, their summit, the apex of perfection, and then they degenerate or cease. And so with meditation, meditation means we're actually witnessing this process rather than operating from it. Because when you examine, just looking at the clock moves. But when you're just aware of the clock, where the clock is in awareness, that's here and now. And experience is always in the present moment. So you remember experience from the past, or you anticipate experience in the future. But when you really examine time and the timeless is always now. And that's conscious awareness, that's timeless, here and now.
So this kind of karmic habits and tendencies, or if you call it Vipaka Kamma, sounds like there's quite a bit of overlap between that and what we usually perceive ourselves to be in terms of personality, isn't it? Our conditioning.
We're all these forms are karmic formations. Is that what you really? You've been conditioned to identify with the karmic formations. Now, what the meditation is doing is you're letting go of a karma. You're not getting rid of it, but you're changing your relationship to it from being the victim of your karmic habits to being the knower. They arise and cease, and in allowing things to cease through this wisdom practice, then the old habits lose their power to delude us, to take us over. Like anger is, when I first ordained with Luang Por Sumedho, I had a lot of anger. Not at him, nothing really with him, but just so much repressed anger in my life of resentment. And then I was in a system where I had to learn another language, and I could easily misinterpret things or make value judgments about Thai forest monasteries or compare them to life in America or whatever. But Luang Por Sumedho's teaching was always to be the witness, not to try to just recondition myself into a Thai monk or a Buddhist monk, but to the Kamma that I'd made up to that time, to be the witness of it rather than the owner. And so that didn't take much explaining. And in the limited communication I could have, because I didn't speak Thai, I managed to understand the witness position. And I could do that even with, to the life that I was experienced in a very strict Vinaya monastery in northeast Thailand. So that was quite a revelation, because it gave me a chance to witness rather than just create more karmic opinions and views and doubts and judgments about the experiences I was having as a new monk, as a foreigner in a Thai monastery and things like that. I could take, I could see how the tendency was to take it all very personally, because I still saw myself as a separate person. But the actual witnessing which I began to have at one time. I remember I'd get so, Luang Por at that time was giving like 4 or 5 hour Dhamma talks. And he wouldn't let me go. I said, you have to stay. I couldn't get out of it. And I'd sit there, and then you're sitting in a very awkward position for an American, and you feel a lot of discomfort, physical discomfort, and Luang Por would go on and on and on, and I'd be thinking, when's he going to stop, And it isn't fair that I can't understand the language. He should let me, give me special permission to leave, but he won't. And just observing these reactions about what Luang Por should do, and I was a special case, the first foreigner in the monastery, and all these complaints and whinges and whines and that I began to witness. And I remember one insight I had, very strong insight, was using the word fed up, because to me that expression is total exasperation. And I was sitting listening to Luang Por give Dhamma talk one evening, and I just thought to myself, I'm fed up. And I didn't say it out loud, but I thought, fed up. And I felt this very strong sense of total exasperation. And suddenly I observed that something in me wasn't fed up at all. And that was the observer, the witness, wasn't fed up. It's just the habit patterns that I developed in my life, and the physical discomfort and the feelings of it's not fair, and suddenly I realized I'm not fed up. I'm aware of being fed up. The awareness isn't fed up. Conscious awareness doesn't ever get fed up, but the habit patterns of Vipaka Kamma can say fed up and feel frustrated by experience that you find that you don't like.
So is it the case that when these things arise, conditions arise, that like you say, witnessing Vipaka Kamma is basically recognizing it from this point of view of awareness rather than grasping them and believing in them?
Well, liberation is being the witness. The conscious awareness is here and now. You can't personalize it. You can't make yourself consciously aware, because you are aware. And that's a fact that from the here and now, whatever experience you're having through your senses or through your body, they're changing. They go from happiness to depression, or to joy, to love, to hate, to anger. But the witness, conscious awareness or mindfulness, is aware of it. So very childish emotions can still arise, but the witness isn't childish. It doesn't even have words to say childish. It's aware that the emotion of the present moment is like this, and if you're grasping it, you let go. You let go of it, and then it will naturally cease. It has no ability to sustain itself. When you let the karma of your life take you to nirodha, or to perfect peace, to the deathless reality, the Amata Dhamma. That's the liberation that we call enlightenment. Because it is, it's liberation, because karma is bondage. When we just blinded and attached, or we're resisting it, trying to pretend we aren't angry or jealous or frightened when we are, that doesn't work. The two extremes of either indulgence or resistance. But you know, when you're frightened, when there's fear, then the awareness is aware fear is like this. Then you start thinking, I shouldn't be afraid. Then you start creating that sense of making that there is something wrong with you as a person. As a man, men aren't supposed to be frightened, and brave. Men should be brave is the ideal, but you know, those are the ideals that you might have been, you know, acquired in your life. But ideals are, you know, nothing you can depend on, because that's not life in the sense realm. In the changing movement of samsara is not an ideal condition. And that's important to realize that when we're idealistic, we all can, like being a teacher of Dhamma, you know, you can idolize what a good Dhamma teacher should be. And then you know, you can be, when you feel you've given wrong advice, or you hurt somebody's feelings, and you can feel guilty about it because you've idolized what a perfect Dhamma teacher should be teaching and responding wisely to every moment of their life. Or you don't, you know, you're not idolizing yourself as a teacher, or as a Buddhist monk, or as a man, or a citizen of any country or anything like that. Not that the ideals are, you can still have ideals, but you're no longer attached to them. So ideals are always beautiful, you know, so you can create the sense of perfect justice and fairness and equality, and that with the thinking mind, with superlative English words. But the words themselves are not ideals, they're conditions that arise and cease. And what is it that's aware of the presence and absence of a word? You know, it doesn't have a word to describe the absence of words, but the absence of thought is like this. So you're putting yourself in this witnessing position of being the witness, the way it is, and all that is subject to arising is subject to ceasing.
Thank you very much, Vipaka.